Vive la résistance!
Hello, and welcome back to another Hearts of Iron 4 Dev Diary. We are truly in the end game now as the release date for The Resistance is upon us, and we get to wrap up the final few Dev Diaries, starting off with the AI and features update. So this Dev Diary is basically talking about some of the changes to the AI, which I'm pretty sure every single person in the forums has always complained about, some updates to Espionage and how that's going to work, as well as what I think is an overhaul of the Portuguese focus tree that we showed off a bit ago. So it's basically Portugal 2 Electric Boogaloo. So look forward to that. Anyway, let's just go straight in with AI and updates. So the key component to what they've done with AI and updates, as far as I can tell, can be boiled down to two key things. One of the bigger complaints being the overpowered Germany and Japan and their strength in the current meta, as well as the sort of passiveness of the allied AI. So they've done two major things, as far as I can see, to combat this, which have lots of intricacies within them. To nerf Germany, they have of course added in resistance, which is a mechanic in which for every state you take, if it is not your own and you've sort of conquered it, it will have a resistance level and you will have to spend garrisons, or sort of manpower and equipment within garrisons, to ensure that the state doesn't sort of revolt and destroy your factories and cause famine and hunger and fear and sadness and death and pain. So the point being that if Germany decides to conquer most of France without putting any thought into the garrisons needing manpower and equipment, they can quickly find that everything they've conquered is far too difficult to hold and they won't actually be getting any benefit from it, which should inherently nerf them, which I think is the point. It also makes uprisings within places like France and Poland a lot easier to do because Germany can't hold their garrisons, assuming they don't have the manpower and equipment. My opinion on this is that it's pretty probable that Germany is such a powerhouse that their strength will be able to hold a lot of this territory. I mean, I've never seen the German AI really struggle for manpower in the current version. They pretty much know how to put ahead of it, their equipment is usually pretty good too. So assuming they don't spam out tons of divisions, quickly lose them all, have zero manpower to repay it, and then start losing in the garrisons, I'm pretty sure they're going to be okay. However, I do think the power of uprisings from within those countries is quite powerful, and I also think Italy might struggle a bit to hold places like Yugoslavia and Greece if they try to go full annexation. So in part I'd say it could be a big nerf to Italy, which in a roundabout way is also a nerf to Germany. The other step is the allied AI, which, as I can say from personal experience, has been pretty passive in the current versions of the game. So what they did is, by using a tool called the history logger, they were able to see where and how the AI is moving around and make focuses for it. Not focuses specific to a national focus, but actual AI-based focuses for them to commit to. So a key point is a location focus, where the AI is going to be more focusing on defending places in Europe, instead of sending their troops halfway around the world for absolutely no reason to garrison borders against people who they probably will never go to war with. The key point being, oh, I'm going to send all my units to Africa. Oh wait, I've changed my mind. I'm going to go back to Britain, and now I'm going to Poland, now I'm going to France, and why not a trip back to Africa again? So hopefully the United Kingdom specifically will just say, right, all of my troops in the UK defend every colonial province border, and then just sit tight until we can retake France. Also, once they're in Europe, they should hold it to the best of their ability. This goes especially for naval invasions, with a hopes to improve the AI so that when they navally invade, they will have much more focus on pushing into that naval invasion and defending any claimed territory. So hopefully, D-Days are going to be a lot more exciting in the next patch, which I'm very much so looking forward to. This gives double power to the USA, who will also have a slight push to fortify Britain early, get their troops to Britain as much as possible, and then make sure that they can naval invade into France, which they are shown to be doing in the history logger we can show later. All in all, I think collectively these things alone is a great way to balance the game. I have much promise if these AI changes will do as they say, because These are kind of the key points towards the current meta of the game, and with it, you might see a lot more balance. Hopefully, you should be seeing something called the history logger right now, which is a way the devs use to see how games go on over a large amount of time without necessarily having to watch them from start to finish. Now, this doesn't do too much for the player, but as I've seen and thought myself, it could be a cool thing to add into the game. A bit like in how, like Civilization 4 and 5, you had the ability to sort of watch a timeline of the history of the map and how states changed. If there was a way to implement something like this into the game, I think that would be a pretty cool way to sort of retire a campaign and just look back over how the chaos changed throughout the world. Could be quite cool to see. For the devs though, this history logger allows them to see how the AI worked as well. Here you can see how the US AI is seen to have all their troops pushing in through southern France and what looks like Yugoslavia in those little heat zones, as well as their planned naval invasions. They've even got one from Norway into Denmark, which I think is very good. It's got focus all over, so should be pretty cool. Okay, so on to some actual changes. We've got Espionage. So before, there was a timer every time you recruited a operative to work your espionage missions. Now this is locked behind a timer for the slots that you have espionage people in. Now it should be limited to every 30 days so that people like Britain using events can't trigger to have, 80,000 agents and create the greatest MI6 agency the Earth has ever seen in 1936. Operations have had a bunch of changes, and the most visible one being the addition of an outlook indicator which shows you the success and risk of a mission. So here you can see that the outlook is good and there is a 10% risk. The risk is sort of the likelihood that the mission is going to fail, the agent could get murdered, the agent could get captured. It's all basically summarised in this risk, and the lower the risk means the higher the outcome of a good operation and your agent comes home safely. Here you can see they've added in a new minister called the Elusive Gentleman. We can see here for the UK it's Stuart Menzies. Stuart Menzies. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it, but the point is you can now get something called the Elusive Gentleman, which gives you one more operative slot, which we saw earlier, and the time it takes to upgrade your agency is reduced by 15%. I'm really hoping this is something they add in to all nations to be able to have, because there's a limit on how many you can have right now in sort of the randomly generated pool, so I'm hoping that this one makes an appearance for nations like Africa, which all seem to have exactly the same free, which is a bit stale, but who knows, maybe it's only certain nations that have their Elusive Gentleman in the store. We'll find out in time. And lastly, we have the entirely new dev diary for Portugal. It may not seem like a new dev diary for Portugal, but as far as I can see, they've pretty drastically changed the focus tree. So, let's just go with another Portuguese dev diary. Why not? We shall return to the unfinished Rubik's Cube that is the Iberian Peninsula. So starting off, they've changed the national spirit for Portugal, so it has Unstable Republic, which instead of giving just a flat debuff of stability, it now gives you a weekly stability debuff. This is countered by Antonio de Oliveira Salazar, who gives you a weekly stability buff. These cancel each other out, so effectively neither of them are going to influence each other. Well, the point is that if you want to change your political ideology, you would therefore be getting rid of Salazar, which means you'll have an unstable republic, which means that any time you change your government to be not Salazar, you'll lose stability every single week, pretty drastically, which is kind of to encourage you to get rid of the unstable republic if you want to change your government. We have been treated indeed, because there are in fact 12 new focuses added to the Portugal focus tree, which I'm going to say I think was needed with some of these parts. I mean, the army focus tree area was a bit sparse, but 12 new focuses, lots more to do, lots more interplay between them. Let's go into it. So the army tree has been buffed up a bit with 3 new focuses, those being field maneuvers, tropas paracaidistas, I'm going to say tropical paratroopers, and the regiment of commandos seen there. Lots more focuses. I mean, it's added a third on, or I guess a half comparatively. So how has this focus tree changed? Let's just read straight off the bat. Army Organisation and Metropolitan Army and Corpo de Estado Major will each grant some army experience. Also, army reorganisation will remove the unstable army national spirit and add a small stability penalty as a result. The Tropic Paratroopers is based off a paratroop rifle battalion and will allow you to get a buff to researching paratroopers. A similar thought can be found with the Regiment of Commandos, which will give you 2 research bonuses for special forces, and a national spirit that will increase your special forces limit. And finally, we have Corpo de Estamayo, which improves army leaders and makes them cheaper, and Staff War Games and its 2 research bonuses for land doctrines, as well as Field Maneuvers, which gives you some army experience and an additional land doctrine bonus. Moving on to some key changes, let's head into the politics tree. So the branches have been renamed so they're a lot clearer on which path is doing what. So now you know if you're going to support the Spanish left or stay neutral or support the Spanish right. All is now very straightforward and very obvious. Securing the free world has been changed, so now you can only do it if you are democratic. That's sort of set in stone now. That is a democracy only feature, which is pretty strong, all things considered, because it allows you to guarantee the independence of all independent minor democratic or non-aligned nations in Europe. Are you in the interest of colonizing Asia? Well, protect Chinese civilians is exactly the focus for you, because it gives you a war goal to take the owner of Guangzhou, which is the state surrounding Macau, although you might have to avoid the, whole Sino-Japanese war. That might be an issue. There's also intervention in Spain, which allows you to get a justification on Spain, assuming they do not have the same ideology as you. Now, in reference to something spoken about earlier, well, if you're going to change your ideology to something that isn't sort of the traditional Salazar's government, you're going to find something that says this. If stability is below 40% at the time this focus is completed, a civil war will start. This is true of allowing free elections for democracy, dictadura militar for the fascists, and the restoration of the monarchy for the, you guessed it, monarchists. This means that if your stability is particularly low at the time you do it, you're going to have a civil war if you want to change your government. Okay, so the historical path is looking a lot bigger, a lot cooler, and I'm a big fan of it. So the key point is that the historical path has been split into 2 key paths. The first one being to honour the Anglo-Portuguese alliance and join the Allies, which I think could be seen as a slightly... I'm not sure, they both have potential, because you don't want to full out join the Allies and go to war with Germany, but you don't want to go proudly alone and suggest that you are single-handedly sort of detaching yourself from everybody. Although I do say that the historical focus is probably proudly alone. Anyway, they've made it so there are 2 different paths you can go down for the historical path, and I think both of them are pretty cool, all things considered. Let's go into them. So, if you're going historical, you're going to get the national spirit Estado Novo, which is essentially representing the Salazar regime and how he tries to keep things cool on top of it, and immediately it'll give you a plus 10% building speed construction for civilian factories. Pretty powerful. I mean, that's kind of the same as an advisor, straight off the bat. Strengthen the regime represents Salazar dealing with all the dissidents in his country, so trying to keep on top of things. It'll cost some manpower and equipment, but you'll get the non-aligned support, and you'll get some small bonuses to the Estado Novo spirit. Next, you'll have to appease the monarchists, which is also pretty cool because it unlocks the ability to get some of those monarchist-related advisors, which are shared with the monarchist branch, and use them for your own good. It's kind of I'm going to have some of those friends, buff up my own government. You'll get some small daily PP and the weekly stability buff to Estado Novo as well. It seems to be a consistent trend that you're just buffing up this national spirit, which I think is pretty cool. National gold reserves, pretty straightforward. Being an economic powerhouse that you want to be, it's going to give you a national spirit, which give you some economic bonuses and better trade relationship with Germany and the United Kingdom, so you can do all your tungsten trading with Germany. Now, if you honour the Anglo-Portuguese alliance, you get to join the Allies, go to war with Germany, all those cool things. Or you can go proudly alone and see if you can take it on as Salazar against the world, removing the unstable republic, leaving behind the chaos and going into the offensive against Japan or any communists nearby. I guess in that regard you could say that joining the Allies is more historical. I mean, I don't remember Portugal declaring war on Japan and single-handedly taking on the Japanese Navy alone, but my memory of history might be blurred, you tell me. And of course we have the capital of Espionage, which, can I just say, I'm surprised is here. Because in all of these focus trees there do seem to be very few focuses, if any apart from this, to do with espionage. I thought the sort of one of the focus trees would sort of be entirely filled with espionage based focuses. But this seems to be the first one I'm noticing. Anyway, the capital of Espionage gives you a national spirit, which gives you buffs to intelligence for civilian, army, navy and air, some counterintelligence debuffs, an operative slot and enemy operative capture chance. Pretty cool. I'm just surprised there's not more of this, but I love it. I think it's great. Alright, we're coming to the end, but let's talk about monarchism, because I mean that's what it's all about. There is a crown on this channel icon, I'm telling you. So now the monarchists have the shared ability to refuse the naval blockade, which originally was just something only the fascists can do, and that gives them the ability to move down and ask or demand, in many ways, to retake the bits of Africa that connect the Portuguese colonies, so the Portuguese can have an African colony that stretches from east to west. It also gives them the ability to move on and declare war on the East Indies, and if I understand this correctly, the monarchists can also declare war on Brazil. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that if you want to sort of reunite the kingdom and take them sort of peacefully, and also call them, but hey, I mean, you can war Brazil as the monarchists. Okay, that wraps everything for this dev diary. Goodness me, there's a lot to take in there. I hope you got through it all. I was struggling. And of course, there's going to be another dev diary this Friday, just before the release of the DLC, heading up next week, I believe. So I guess I'll see if I can make a video about that, assuming it's got content worth covering. In any case, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, feel free to like, feel free to subscribe, feel free to tell all your friends, families, distant relations and strangers on the street, and I'll see you next time. Bye.